Have you ever been forced to choose between your dignity and your livelihood? Between keeping your job and keeping your self-respect? I have. And the person who forced me into that impossible choice wasn't a stranger. It wasn't some heartless corporate boss I'd never met. It was my own brother. Apologize to her or you're fired. Those were his exact words. Cold, final, like he was talking to a stranger instead of his own sister. I looked at him, my older brother, Daniel, the person I'd trusted my entire life, and I said one word. Fine. Then I walked out. But that wasn't the end of the story, not even close. Let me take you back to the beginning. Let me tell you how I ended up standing in my brother's office, being told to apologize to the woman who had made my life a living nightmare. My name is Elena Reyes. I'm 29 years old, and until 3 months ago, I worked at my family's company, Reyes Construction. My father started the business 30 years ago. He built it from nothing, just him, a truck, and a dream. By the time I was born, it was already successful. By the time I graduated college, it was one of the biggest construction firms in the state. My brother Daniel is 5 years older than me. He's always been the golden child, the firstborn son, the heir to the throne. From the day he was born, everyone knew Daniel would take over the company one day. He was groomed for it, prepared, celebrated. Me, I was just the daughter, expected to marry well, stay out of the way, and maybe work a nice little job in the office if I wanted to feel useful. But I had other plans. I studied business in college, graduated with honors, got my MBA from a top school. I was determined to prove that I belonged in this company, not because I was a Reyes, but because I was good at what I did. When I joined the family business at 24, I started at the bottom. I didn't ask for special treatment. I worked in every department, learned every process, earned the respect of every team I worked with. By 27, I was running operations. By 28, I was the most efficient manager in the company. The employees loved me. The clients trusted me. I was making the company money and solving problems no one else could solve. But Daniel never saw it that way. To him, I was still his little sister, still someone who needed to be managed, controlled, put in her place. Then he met Victoria. Victoria Blake was a marketing consultant Daniel hired 2 years ago. She was beautiful, charming, and incredibly ambitious. She was also manipulative, dishonest, and ruthless. But Daniel couldn't see it. He was too dazzled by her smile and her flattery to notice what was really happening. They started dating 6 months after she joined the company. Within a year, they were engaged. And that's when everything changed. Victoria didn't just want to marry Daniel. She wanted to control the company. She wanted power. And the first person standing in her way was me. It started small. Little comments here and there. Elena seems stressed lately. Maybe she's taking on too much. I'm just worried about her. Victoria was planting seeds, making people question my competence, my stability, my place in the company. Then came the sabotage. Projects I was managing suddenly had problems. Documents went missing. Emails weren't delivered. Deadlines were missed. Every time something went wrong, Victoria was there with a sympathetic smile and a helpful suggestion. Poor Elena, she's really struggling, isn't she? Maybe she needs some support. I knew what she was doing. I could see the pattern, but I couldn't prove it. Every time I tried to explain to Daniel that something was off, he dismissed me. Victoria's just trying to help. You're being paranoid. Maybe you're taking on too much. It's okay to admit you need a break. You've always been competitive with other women. Maybe that's the real issue here. Competitive with other women. I wanted to scream. I wasn't competitive. I was being systematically destroyed. But Daniel was blind, completely, utterly blind. The final straw came 3 months ago. I was managing our biggest project of the year, a $50 million commercial development. Everything was on track. We were ahead of schedule, under budget, and the client was thrilled. Then, the day before our final presentation, disaster struck. The entire project file was corrupted. Months of work gone. Contracts, blueprints, financial projections, everything. I worked all night trying to recover the data. My team stayed with me, pulling together what we could from backups and memory. We managed to salvage enough for the presentation, but it was rough, incomplete, not up to our usual standards. The client was understanding, but disappointed. They gave us another week to deliver the full package. Daniel was furious. How could you let this happen? This is the most important project we have. I didn't let it happen, I said. Someone corrupted the files. This was sabotage. Sabotage? That's ridiculous. You're just making excuses. Daniel, I'm telling you. Enough. He slammed his hand on his desk. I'm tired of your excuses. I'm tired of your paranoia. Victoria warned me this might happen. I froze. Victoria warned you. She said you've been struggling, that you've been making mistakes and blaming others. I didn't want to believe her, but now. He shook his head. Maybe it's time you took a step back, a leave of absence. Get yourself together. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're sidelining me because your fiancé told you to. I'm protecting the company, something you clearly can't do anymore. I walked out of his office that day feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. But I wasn't ready to give up, not yet. I knew I needed proof. If Victoria was sabotaging me, there had to be evidence. Digital footprints, witnesses, something. I spent the next 2 weeks investigating quietly. I talked to it. I reviewed security logs. I traced the corruption back to its source. And I found it. The file corruption had come from Victoria's computer, her login credentials, her IP address. She had destroyed months of work and let me take the blame. I had proof, undeniable, concrete proof. I went straight to Daniel's office, evidence in hand, ready to finally expose the truth. But when I walked in, Victoria was already there, sitting in one of the chairs, looking perfectly composed. Like she'd been waiting for me. Elena, Daniel said coldly, we need to talk. I held up the folder in my hand. Yes, we do. I have proof that Victoria told me you've been harassing her. I stopped. What? Victoria dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. I didn't want to say anything, but she's been sending me horrible messages, threatening me, telling me to stay away from Daniel and the company. That's a lie. I shouted, I never. She showed me the messages, Elena. Daniel's voice was like ice. Screenshots, timestamps, everything. I stared at Victoria. She looked back at me with innocent, tearful eyes. But behind those eyes, I saw it. The triumph, the satisfaction. She had faked the messages, created fake evidence to destroy me before I could destroy her. Daniel, those messages are fake. She fabricated them, just like she sabotaged my project. Enough, Daniel stood up. I've heard enough of your lies and accusations. He pointed at Victoria. This woman is going to be my wife. She is part of this family now, and you will treat her with respect. She's manipulating you. Can't you see that? The only thing I see is a jealous, unstable woman who can't accept that she's not the center of attention anymore. Those words cut deeper than anything Victoria could have done. Daniel walked toward me, his face hard. You have 2 choices. Apologize to Victoria right now in front of me for the harassment and the accusations, or you're fired. I looked at my brother, the person I'd known my entire life, the person I'd loved and trusted. And I realized I didn't know him at all. Fine, I said quietly. His expression flickered, surprise, maybe even relief. You'll apologize. No, I met his eyes. I said fine, fire me. I turned and walked out. Behind me, I heard Victoria's satisfied sigh. But she had no idea what was coming. I went home that night and cried. Not because I'd lost my job, not because of Victoria's lies. Because I'd lost my brother. The person who was supposed to protect me had chosen a manipulator over his own sister, had believed lies over truth, had thrown away our entire relationship for a woman he'd known for 2 years. I grieved that night, let myself feel the full weight of the betrayal. And then, the next morning, I got to work. I wasn't going to let Victoria win. I wasn't going to disappear quietly and let her rewrite history. I was going to rebuild, and I was going to make them regret ever underestimating me. First, I took stock of what I had. I had my MBA, my experience, my reputation in the industry, my network of contacts built over 5 years. I had the proof of Victoria's sabotage, proof Daniel had refused to see. And I had something else, something I'd been developing quietly for the past year. A business plan. During my time at Ray's Construction, I'd identified a gap in the market. Sustainable construction, eco-friendly materials, green building practices, energy-efficient designs. It was the future of the industry, but most companies were slow to adapt. I'd been working on a plan to launch a sustainable construction division at Ray's. I'd done the research, built the projections, identified potential clients. But Daniel had dismissed it. Too risky, too expensive, not our brand. Now, that plan was mine. I used my savings to register my own company, Verd Construction, green building for a greener future. I reached out to contacts, former clients who trusted me, suppliers who respected me, investors who believed in sustainable development. Within a month, I had funding. Within 2 months, I had my first project. And within 3 months, I was competing directly with Ray's Construction. Verd Construction took off faster than I'd imagined. The market was hungry for what I was offering. Clients wanted sustainable options. They wanted to reduce their carbon footprint. They wanted to be part of the future. And I was giving them exactly that. My first project was a small commercial building, a green office space for a tech startup. We finished ahead of schedule, under budget, and the client was thrilled. They referred me to 3 other companies. Those companies referred me to more. Within 6 months, Verd Construction had completed 10 projects and had 20 more in the pipeline. I hired former colleagues from Ray's, people who had quit after I was fired, disgusted by how I'd been treated. They were talented, loyal, and motivated. We were a small company, but we were mighty. Meanwhile, I heard rumors about what was happening at Ray's. Victoria had convinced Daniel to expand aggressively. New markets, new projects, bigger risks. But without me managing operations, things were falling apart. Projects were delayed, budgets were blown, clients were unhappy. The company that my father had built over 30 years was starting to crumble. And Victoria, she was too busy planning her wedding to notice. I didn't gloat. I didn't reach out to rub it in. I just kept building, kept growing, kept proving that I was more than what they'd reduced me to. The best revenge isn't destruction, it's success. 8 months after I walked out of Daniel's office, I got a phone call. It was my father. "Elena, I need to see you." My father had been mostly retired for years, letting Daniel run the company. He'd stayed out of the drama, or so I'd thought. I met him at his house that afternoon. He looked older than I remembered, tired, sad. "I know what happened," he said quietly. "I know what Victoria did. I know Daniel fired you." "You knew?" "Not at first, but I've been watching, listening, and I've seen what's happened to the company since you left." He shook his head. "I should have stepped in sooner. I should have protected you. I'm sorry." Those words I'd needed to hear for so long, broke something open inside me. "Dad, it's okay." "No, it's not." He took my hand. "You're my daughter and I let you down, but I'm going to make it right." He told me what had been happening at Ray's Construction. Victoria's aggressive expansion had backfired spectacularly. 3 major projects had failed. The company was hemorrhaging money. Investors were pulling out. And Daniel was finally starting to see the truth. He'd discovered discrepancies in Victoria's work, money that didn't add up, decisions that made no sense. He'd hired an investigator, and what they found was devastating. Victoria had been embezzling, skimming money from projects, funneling contracts to companies she secretly owned. She hadn't just sabotaged me. She'd been stealing from the family business the entire time. Daniel was shattered, humiliated. He'd broken off the engagement immediately. "He wants to see you," my father said. "He wants to apologize." I was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know if I'm ready for that." "I understand, but Elena, he's your brother. He made terrible mistakes, but he's still your brother." 2 days later, Daniel showed up at my office. My office, at Verd Construction, the company I'd built from nothing after he'd thrown me away. He looked terrible, thin, exhausted, broken. "Can I come in?" His voice was barely a whisper. I nodded. He sat down across from my desk, the same position I'd been in when he gave me that ultimatum. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. "I don't even know where to start," he said. "Try the beginning." He took a shaky breath. "I was wrong about everything, about Victoria, about you, about all of it." Tears formed in his eyes. "She played me, Elena. She told me exactly what I wanted to hear, and I believed every word. I let her turn me against my own sister." "Yes, you did. The proof you tried to show me that day, I found it. In my desk drawer, I'd thrown it away without even looking at it. When I finally read it," he broke down. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I watched my brother cry, the golden child, the heir reduced to this. Part of me wanted to comfort him. Part of me wanted to scream. "Daniel, you didn't just fire me. You chose her over me. You believed her lies over my truth. You called me jealous and unstable. Do you understand how much that hurt?" I know I can never undo it." "No, you can't." Silence stretched between us. Finally, I spoke. "I'm not going to pretend everything is fine. I'm not going to hug you and say it's okay, because it's not." He nodded, accepting it. "But you're my brother, and I don't want to spend the rest of my life hating you." He looked up, hope flickering in his eyes. "So here's what I'm offering. We start over, slowly. You earn back my trust through actions, not words, and maybe eventually we can be family again." "I'll do anything," he said, "whatever it takes." "Good, because I'm watching, and I won't be fooled twice."